Pickin' with a piner, pickin' with a piner, pickin' with a piner, come pine along with me. Pickin' with a piner, pickin' with a piner, pickin' with a piner, come pine along with me. Hey there, Facebook, YouTube world. This is Pickin' with a Piner, episode 6. Tonight I have a really special guest. We've been talking about doing this for a while, and I finally got her on. But tonight we have, and I think she's probably the most relevant and authentic country artist there is in the whole state of Virginia. I would say Richmond, but I think it's even bigger than that. Her name is Mackenzie Roark, and if you don't already know her name, then you will by the time we're through with this episode of Pickin' with a Piner. Mackenzie fronts a band under the name Pistol Sister. She's got a style that's reminiscent of a time forgone, with vocals that steal you from the very first note. And she writes songs that are one part honky-tonk, one part country, and another part rock and roll. In 2019, she and her band released a single titled Cigarettes and TV Dinners with the studio American Paradox. She also has an EP you can find out there online titled Mother Tongue, which was released back in 2016 and produced by Mark Bryan of a little-known band called Hootie and the Blowfish. But tonight I am so happy to welcome Mackenzie Roark to my whatever this is, this thing. Welcome, Mackenzie.
Hi, Woody. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here. So folks tuning in, Mackenzie is a singer-songwriter from the Richmond area, and we've played a bunch of shows together in the past, and her band, they're a super great group of folks, and we get along really well together, and Mackenzie was a part of the event we put on last fall at the Ashland Theater called River City Review, and Mackenzie was an essential part of that and that whole process. So we go way back. Oh, somebody's already saying she's good. This is Laney's sister, Reed. Reed had her birthday. Happy birthday, Reed.
Happy birthday.
And Lenny, their dad also has a birthday, so we want to wish them happy birthday. But yeah, so Mackenzie, you're awesome, and I've been wanting to get you on this show for a while, and I've already done 5 other of these episodes, and you're lucky number 6. I don't know if that's a lucky number, but you're number 6.
Cool. Yeah, I'm glad to be on. Yeah, I've been seeing you posting these, and yeah, I'm thrilled to be a part of it for sure.
We this pod, I mean, it's not a podcast. I keep calling it a podcast. It's not a podcast. It's a live stream. We stream it to Facebook and YouTube. I've called this thing Pickin' with a Piner, and I actually based it off of an old photo that I have. It's over my shoulder here of some people sitting around. Let me.
Oh yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know if I could zoom in, but the photo back here is a photo of a bunch of old time people sitting around. It looks like a stream of some kind of waterfall, and they've got a banjo, and there's a lady playing a banjo and a guy playing a fiddle. It was just a really cool photo. So when I thought about this, I wanted it to be something titled close to what my band title was. So Pickin' with a Piner is what we came up with. And so the point of all of this is just to build community, not just to have a normal live stream thing. This is for an opportunity for you and I to sit here and talk about music, what drives us, what makes us tick, what makes us write songs, tell people what we're going through at the time, and during this time. And so that's kind of the point of this thing is to end to play a couple of tunes there every once in a while. My mother says hello.
Hi.
Hi, Mom. And so yeah, that's what the goal is tonight. Is so we'll start off with some questions probably, and then I want people to hear your music, so you'll play some tunes for us if that's all right with you.
Sure. Yeah, sounds good.
So you've built a little niche in Richmond around a vibe that I love and admire, and it's I think we kind of fit in the same realm of music. You could call it Americana. You could call it, I'd call it country. Um, Not pop country, but country. And that's why our bands kind of fit really well together at times, because we kind of going in the same direction with the sound that comes out. Um,
Yeah.
but how did you get into? Let's start with that. How did you get into that style of music? Where does that come from? How did you find that sound that has like a little bit of pedal steel, a little bit of that honky tonk vibe? Where does that come from for you?
So it's actually kind of funny. I did not grow up with any sort of country music at all. You
I
know,
hope your parents are watching, because I met them, and,
yeah,
and
very
and I
much.
would say they don't put off a country vibe at all. They're
No.
great people, but they don't put off a country vibe.
Yeah, I did not grow up around it at all. Did not grow up in the country, grew up totally in the suburbs. But I grew up listening to older music. I've always been a fan of older music. Um, my parents, had exposed us to a lot of like 60s, 70s, 80s kind of thing. So in high school, I was not listening to anything mainstream. I was like, thought I was like hot shit back then, because I was only listening to like the Beatles and Simon and Garfunkel and things like that.
Cool.
Um,
What was cool? You were hip. You were hip
oh
because you were listening to old shit.
yeah. Yeah. So around 11th grade, I got bit by the Bob Dylan bug and got bit like super hard and just like dove really deep into him.
Mm,
Um, and that's like kind of the first time I really listened to music with like just new ears, like really getting super into the lyrics and wanting to like take it apart and what does this mean? And of course, to do that with his music is kind of a
yeah.
little pointless in a lot of ways, but it kept me entertained. And so that's kind of like opened me up to this whole world of like music, poetry, literature, like just kind of this new form of art.
Yeah.
So kind of went to college and like, got into like alternative, like whatever music that college students listen to, kind of some folksy stuff, and formed, I guess, kind of my first band. Me and my really close friend Sarah, we started playing together because she's super talented, and we would just harmonize. So we would play together around Harrisonburg, going to JMU. And we would play every Monday in this like Irish pub. And this old man came up to us, and we would just play like folk tunes, like kind of some stuff we'd written, whatever. This old guy comes up and he's like, "You guys should listen to Emmylou Harris. You should do one of her songs." And I had like kind of heard the name, but didn't really know her music. And so I went back to our house, and that week I found a video of her singing Poncho and Lefty, and
Oh wow.
like rocked my world. I thought it was
Yeah.
just the best song. I
Yeah.
loved it. It's like, when you like discover those songs.
For so many reasons, I love that was like the first song that came along that hit
Yeah,
you. That was like,
yeah,
one, because it's Amy Lou, and two, because it's a Towns Van Zandt song.
yeah.
So keep going. I'm sorry,
So,
but I'm the second behind you. I'm the second hugest Towns Van Zandt fan
yeah.
out there. But go ahead.
So that kind of like led me down this Towns path, and I don't know, it was just so different and so like not like any other music I had really heard before. I mean, I'll always say my three favorite songwriters are Bob Dylan, Leonard Cohen, and Towns Van Zandt. For
Those are
three
good.
very different reasons. They kind of
Yeah.
like satisfy three different like needs that I have.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good top three. I would say those are probably in my top five
Yeah.
altogether. But they're very different in their own way, in their own right.
Yeah. And just really beautiful. And the thing that really struck me about Towns was like what he's saying is like it's beautiful and it's poetic, but it's also like so real and so relatable in a lot of ways.
Yeah, yeah.
Just the way that country music is. And so kind of being exposed to Towns, just like opened me up to all sorts of things, and I just like wanted to learn all about it. So kind of got
Hmm.
into, like John Prine and Graham Parsons, and more Emmy Lou, and just kind of that whole side of music.
It's
Um,
weird. It's weird how that one little thing can open up Pandora's box and
yeah,
send you down the river of American music,
mhm,
and take you places that if you were just listening to radio, you'd never know about any of those names you just mentioned. And I feel bad for people that don't know those names, and it's not
Yeah.
sometimes it's not their fault. I mean,
Right.
Towns wasn't even a known household name until after he died. For
Yeah.
for whatever reason, everything that he left behind, is what eventually he became famous after death.
Yeah.
And um, but it's just crazy to me. But that's cool how one little thing can spark your interest, and you're sent down this rabbit hole, and that those are the areas you chose to go. That's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, it's funny too because when I was young, like I've grown up kind of singing and got into like singing and did musical theater and all this stuff like when I was much younger. And I remember one time at school, I did like a talent show and sang a song. And this classmate of mine, his mom told me that I had a good voice for country music, and I was like in seventh grade, and I was like super offended. I was like, ew, no, like never in a million years. Because
Yeah,
country music was the crap that plays on like K95 or whatever
yeah,
station is here. And it just has always had such a negative connotation. And so even now, like when I tell people, like, they're like, what kind of music do you play? And I'm like, country. And I kind of like have
yeah.
this like country, like sorta, because I don't want them to think that it's
Well, it's fun. It's funny that it has a negative connotation in any way. It's like it's. I mean, I think I would say it's exactly what it is. I mean, it's it sounds like everything that I knew that was country growing up. Um, and you could argue that the form itself has moved away into what is more pop driven, automated drum tracks and that sort of thing. And I mean, it's party music. It's
yeah,
pop music. It's pop music.
right.
It's just pop music with a country twang. And I mean, I've heard Jason Isbell talk about music, and there is bad music out there. I just choose not to listen to it.
Yeah,
That sort of thing. But I would say your music is very country. I would say your vocals are very very country. And it's interesting that Amy Lou is who you found because she's from around the Maryland, Baltimore, Northern Virginia area, and really found her way in the bluegrass scene in that area. Not to mention a ton of other really phenomenal female artists in Virginia. I mean, the godmother of what you could call country music.
practically.
The Carter family,
Or yeah, correct.
and Maybelle Carter. I mean, she essentially created a whole style of guitar playing,
Right.
And not to mention who's from Winchester. Anybody out there? Huh?
Patsy Cline.
Patsy Cline. Yeah, I mean, there's so many wonderful, female vocalists, artists, country musicians that have a deep history here. It's to me, it's great that you found Amy Lou, and then Amy Lou spent you down this
Yeah.
whole, whole, whatever this is that we do. So you were in show choir.
Well,
Did I
not
say?
really choir. It was
Okay.
like musical theater. Like,
Oh,
so my school did not offer show choir. It was like a tiny Christian school that had nothing. So it was just regular choir and then some like theatrical things too.
we had some people agreeing with what we're saying. Joel said it's nice to hear other people with the same feelings. I agree with all of this.
I don't.
Um, Dylan, who's in my band, he's a harmonica player. What's up, Dylan? He said real country music can be a catalyst for sure. Uh, I think he was talking about the people we were talking about. And then a buddy of mine from college, Chris Mayo, said K95 exclamation point exclamation point. But I mean, the sad thing is there is a mechanism that runs the music scene, and unless you are in that mechanism, you're an independent artist. You're gonna have a hard time being heard. I mean, people don't even know who Sarah Shook is. I'm completely devastated when I people don't know who Margot Price is. There's Jamie Wyatt, who's also a sort of country honky-tonk kind of feel player, and it's just shocking to me. But people don't know. You're fed this style of music, and then
Right.
you you make the term. So I think part of our job is to take back that 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 um that nomenclature
Mhm.
the of country music. Like that's our job is to write and create real country music.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, So so from college you got involved. So somebody told you a long time ago you should be a country singer. That stuck with you. Then you went to college. You started a alternative folk group,
Yeah.
let's say. So then what's how did that evolve then into the music that you make now? Because you make really great music. I think it's great. I tell everybody about you. I think there's plenty of people on here that are gonna say, um, they've been asking me for a long time. When are you gonna have Mackenzie on? When are you gonna have Mackenzie on? So people that like my music like your music as well. So how did that twang then get involved? How did that pedal steel get involved, and how did it become what you do today?
So basically, I had graduated from college, moved to Richmond, was here for a year, was just listening to a lot of country and fell in love with pedal steel. I mean, I think pedal
Yeah.
steel is one of the most beautiful sounds in the world, and just like fills me with all the feels. I love pedal steel and kind of developed that love around that time.
Yeah.
I then went off and got my master's degree in Ireland. So for about a year, I lived overseas in Ireland and got my master's in creative writing. And through that, so I went over there with the intention of being like a prose and poetry writer, and
Mm-hmm.
essentially got there and was like, I would sit down to do an assignment and I would just end up writing a song. And I was like, I don't want to write poetry. I don't want to, like, this is what I thought I had to do, but I really am not into it. And thankfully, the director of the creative writing program is an author by the name of Joseph O'Connor, and he is actually Sinead O'Connor's brother.
Oh
And
wow.
he's a big music guy, super awesome dude. And I basically went to him and was like, I just like don't care about poetry anymore. I thought that it was something I was really into, but I just like it's not my thing. I just want to like do songs. And he was like, well, then just do songs, like just submit songs. Just do that and do that for your thesis. And so I had to do like, a big thesis at the end. And he's like, turn in like a bunch of songs and record them and give me the lyrics and give me like the story behind them and everything. So that whole year, I was totally alone in Ireland. I had like the people that, I met through the program and a couple people like fellow musicians over there in Limerick. But I was alone and I just like wrote a ton and listened to a ton of country music and had a friend over there by the name of Graham. And he like really encouraged me to kind of like do this country thing too. Cause country's like kind of big, like even outside of America, like, I go into a bar, like an open mic and do Poncho and Lefty or Bobby McGee or one of these people. And people would just like lose it. They were so into it. And so that kind of encouraged this like countryness. So I came home and had to like, so that's when I did my EP, the like 5-song EP that I did in 2016 was like.
So it was after that time in Ireland.
Yeah, yeah. And so the 5 songs on the EP are actually songs that I like turned in for a grade. So like I then went and like got them professionally recorded and stuff. But yeah, so it really evolved after that. And and then like kind of fast forward a little bit, forming the band that I have now, like we met all through open mic, an open mic night we had started at City Beach, which is an interesting spot in Richmond, that we started there a couple of years ago. And
that's right off of Maine, right?
It's off of Carey.
Carey.
Cafe. It's a total sports bar. Not a good setting for like the type of music you and I play at all. But yeah, it was interesting, but we just like, they didn't care. They let us do what we wanted. So we just like
ran with
our stuff. And it was, I don't know, that's kind of how the band formed.
I need to check real quick. It sounds like we have an echo. Sonia, I'm gonna use you as the resident expert since you tune in every week. Do you still hear the echo, Sonia? Please respond in Messenger or message if you can. If you're still hearing an echo, I'm gonna try to adjust that while Mackenzie and I are talking. I've already tried to do a little adjustment here. It could just be I've got a new microphone and new setup I'm using here, so I don't want to mess up this wonderful conversation we're having by having an echo. So please, if we're still echoey, please somebody let us know, and I'm gonna try to make some adjustments as we go. No, that's I love you guys in your band. Everybody's really nice. It sounds like we're okay now. Thanks, Reed. It's gone now. I think it was just one of my mics was too hot, and again, my fault. New equipment, and it's just trying to figure this out as I go. Um, well, that EP is really really cool. It's cool that you got to work with people in the industry, someone that's actually done the thing. Um, uh, I there's several songs on there I really enjoy. Um, Abby says, "Congrats, Mackenzie," and I think the echo's gone. And then my mom said no, so I'll use her as the definitive voice there. I think we're good to go now. Um, let's take a pause, and I want you to play. I want you to play something for everybody. If you wouldn't mind, if you've got something off the top of your head you want to do. My cousin Renee, her and her husband Jason, they're great people. But Renee's been volunteering in New York during the COVID crisis, and she tunes in every once in a while, says hi. So I just want to say hi to Renee. Thanks for saying hi, and thanks for listening.
Yeah, thank you.
But yeah, let's hear something cool. You write good tunes. I tell everybody that. And there's plenty of people that are fans of your music and needs to be heard. So go ahead and play us a tune real quick.
Okay. Yeah, so since we were just talking about that EP, I'll play a song off that. This is kind of one of my most popular ones, one I've been playing for a while. So a bit of a story song, but it's called Rosalie.
And this is for everybody out there, I personally requested this song. So all right, thank you for doing it.
She's on the back porch smoking. She's slightly cracked, almost broken. She's been thinking and hoping that her man might come along. Her hair's all blonde and knotted, and her heart's been poked and prodded, and this house is dead and rotted, but she knows it won't be long till he says, Rosalie, won't you come with me? You can make the richest man bend on the beggar's knee. I'll pick you up, baby, now I'll lay you down. I won't let you drown, my Rosalie. Now she's walking down the freeway. It always happens in the month of May. Another year is gone and nothing's changed, with the cracks spread on her skin. She says I'm going down to find my mother and let her know I've been thinking of her, and maybe she'll help me to discover why it is I'm shattering. And she'll say, Rosalie, won't you stay with me? You can make the richest man bend on the beggar's knee. I'll pick you up, baby, now I'll lay you down. I won't let you drown. Oh, mother at the door, she says, what you doing here for? I don't know you anymore. Go on home. Lover at the door, he says, I don't want you anymore. When I left you, I was sure you'd have known. Rosalie, hey, Rosalie, Rosalie, oh, oh, oh. She's on the back porch drinking, just to keep herself from thinking about the cracks that got her sinking and the spaces that remain. And I guess I don't need no one to appreciate the things I've done, 'cause I got me this loaded gun and this bottle to call my name. And they say, Rosalie, won't you swallow me? You can make the richest man bend on a beggar's knee. Pick me up, baby, now I'll lay you down. I won't let you drown. My Rosalie, my Rosalie, my Rosalie.
You can't hear it, but everybody on the other end of Facebook and YouTube is clapping right now.
Oh,
No, that's so good. It's
thank you.
that's one of my favorites of yours.
Thanks.
I do like cigarettes and TV dinner as well. You'll play that one hopefully a little later for us. But so tell me a little bit about so you're spending time in Ireland, and yes, Europe is amazing. Sonia says, "Love your voice, Mackenzie."
Oh, thank
Uh,
you.
the and they're amazing when it comes to loving American music, right? I mean, you know, it was the Rolling Stones who heard blues music and was replicating that. It was the Beatles. So they have a profound love for American music,
Mhm.
and particularly that vein of country music as well. Again, not pop country. We're not talking pop country. We're talking about songs with the right amount of emotion and feeling and lyrics that tell a story. Pedal steel in the background, banjo some places, mandolin, fiddle, um, things with real drums. Maybe no drums at all. Maybe it's just the song and a guitar, the way Towns did a lot of things. So, um, and so you're there and you're writing all these tunes. You come back, you create this record. Then you meet folks and you've been playing the last couple of years.
Mhm.
But when it comes to writing, right? Like you mentioned that you are this was not in your wheelhouse
Yeah.
before then. How did you start writing such good country songs then? How did that work? And what I don't want to get too. I'm going to ask you more about your writing process later, but how did the I mean, were you just listening to a bunch of stuff and it was influencing you, or how did that work for you?
Yeah. I mean, I would say I have written a lot of songs, and I would say 95% of them are crap and have been crap.
Yeah,
And the ones that I play for you are like the few that have like risen to the top and have like gotten out into the world.
sure,
So
sure, sure.
I, I've worked very hard on I've just worked like hard on kind of getting to that place over the past few years. I think that studying creative writing was so beneficial to me.
Yeah.
It really like helped me look at music and songs as like a piece of writing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like actually turning it in for a grade, being graded by like a creative writing, like a
Sure,
professional
sure.
writer. So I think that really helped and helped me to kind of almost sometimes I feel like kind of to a fault where
Yeah.
I am so critical of what I produce that none of it like leaves my room,
Mm-hmm.
makes it like onto a stage.
And it might be good. And it might be good.
I think,
You never know. It
yeah,
probably is, but because you're so critical, I think most writers are like that. I think most
yeah,
folks are.
yeah.
Paula says hi,
I follow.
and also congrats.
Thank you.
Uh, do you want to tell folks about
Oh yeah,
your
sure.
most recent, huh?
Yeah, I got married on Saturday,
Yee,
so
yee. Out in
yeah,
the field, right?
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you're a tree.
Wow, that's cool. Well, congrats. And everybody listening, Mackenzie got married recently during the COVID crisis. She did big things and got hitched. So
Yeah,
congrats to her and her hubby, Michael.
yeah. He's gonna be joining us later. He's in my band. For those of you who don't know, that's kind of how we met.
Yeah.
Yeah. um, but yeah, so I think it definitely is. I think it's good to be critical because
Yeah.
as many good musicians, very talented writers there are out there, there's like an equal amount of people who should be editing themselves more, in my
Oh,
opinion.
absolutely.
Like
Absolutely.
even local people, even kind of like small names where I want to be like encouraging and like do it, but sometimes I'll listen to someone's music and I'm like, was this just the first thing that like popped out of your head today? Because like it seems like no work went into this,
Yeah.
and you could just tell. And I have like a critic's ear. I can't help it.
Yeah.
And so I am that way about my own writing. I don't want anyone to like hear something I've written and be like, she clearly spent 5 minutes writing
Yeah.
that, you know?
I totally agree with you there as well. I mean, I've probably thrown away more stuff than I've actually written, and a lot of times it just lives. I used to not keep things in notebooks, and so it was just like any scrap paper I could find, and I'd have boxes and boxes of papers with stuff written on napkins. And it's easy to be your own critic. It's easy to be your worst critic as well. But I think if you take any pride in it as a craft, if you're taking it serious, then you're spending time, you're making revisions, you're really asking yourself, is that the best way of putting that? Am I telling the story the correct way? Or even if it's not a story, is it conveying the proper feeling in the song? And that's incredibly hard. I am an untrained writer. I mean, I took a couple of poetry classes in college, and poetry is not anywhere like lyric writing. I mean, people tend to think it is. It's close, but there's other elements involved in lyric writing that might not necessarily be the same as a cadence in a poem, right? Like there's so many other elements involved. But I am also my worst critic, and I think I mean, if you care about what you're doing, you're going to be somewhat critical of yourself, and that's anything. I think that's if you're Benji's listening. I bet you he can agree. That's the same thing with comedy as well, right, Benji? Benji's a comedian. He was on a few weeks ago, and he helps us host the River City Review. And Benji's actually getting married here soon, so we're going to be congratulating him soon enough. But I think any artist that's looking at their form realistically, honestly, they're going to be extremely critical. And sometimes, though, to a fault, though. I think we got to be careful also as well. I think we should use other people's ears as a meter for whether or not something's good, and not always rely on ourselves as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Sorry, I dropped my pick. But we were talking about country music, so I'm going to play a song I wrote about my I wouldn't call it a despise of country music. It's just it's not what I grew up hearing. I mean, so I'm a little bit, in a way, we're somewhat different, but similar in a way, because I found a lot of artists later on in life. It wasn't like I was listening. It wasn't on the radio, so I wasn't listening to it, right? So I grew up on grunge music, country when I was early country music stuff. Things that you would hear on the Grand Ole Opry in the 1980s. That's what I grew up hearing from my grandmother and grandfather. And then later on in life, I took that path, the same path, similar path, to flow through the Townes Van Zandt, Guy Clark, Steve Earle, eventually, actually, Drive-By Truckers first before Townes Van Zandt.
Oh, really?
I saw Drive-By Truckers in college, and they rocked my world. It was in a little auxiliary gymnasium one year. I think it was either homecoming. 2006, Jason Isbell was still in the band, and so I got to see all of that. And so they opened my eyes to a different, and some of the stuff they were playing. And then later I found Townes, and I found Townes through Steve Earle, and then backtracked, and then came back around, and then fell into blues because Townes was a huge Lightning Hopkins fan, and so you start swimming down all these different trails. But anyway, this song I wrote about just being around my grandparents and their influence on the music that I write now and play, but it's called Country Ain't Country, and we recorded it over the winter, and hopefully we'll be able to release something this year. I don't know how I turned down my guitar, so I hope we don't get that echo back, but let's try this. So this song's called Country Ain't Country. Well, I remember riding around in your truck, the windows down, the radio up, singing to an old Hank Williams song. A gun on the rack, CB on the back, a spit in an old tin cup, They don't make them like that anymore. They wore pearl snap buttons with cowboy boots, dressed to a dime in his three-piece suit, sang every word that Mama tried yesterday's wine. Well, the older I get, the more I see what it was he was teaching me. This country ain't country anymore. Give me that high and lonesome, give me a steel guitar, give me that Texas fiddle or a Tennessee waltz. Give me Willie or Waylon, Haggard or Jones. This country these days, it ain't country anymore. Well, I grew up and moved away, and Papa, he just stayed the same. This country has a collard green or laundry on the line. He smelled like dirt and gasoline, carried a bucket of tools in his back seat. He could fix anything that you wanted to, just to pass the time. Give me that high and lonesome, give me a steel guitar, give me that Texas fiddle or a Tennessee waltz. Give me Willie or Waylon, Haggard or Jones. This country these days, it ain't country anymore. Well, it seems to me the world has changed and country music sounds the same. A pop song sung with a southern twang about summer trucks and beer. It'll take me back to the good old days when country music had something to say. From a transistor radio, it just echoes in my ears. Give me that high and lonesome, give me a steel guitar, give me that Texas fiddle or a Tennessee waltz. Give me Willie or Waylon, Haggard or Jones. It's country these days, it ain't country anymore. Well, Pawpaw died a few years back. I got his pocket knife and his baseball cap. Ain't a day that passes I don't think about the years. Well, the older I get, the more I see what it was he was teaching me. This country ain't country anymore. Give me that high and lonesome, give me a steel guitar, give me that Texas fiddle or a Tennessee waltz. Give me Willie or Waylon, Haggard or Jones. It's country these days, it ain't country anymore.
Woo!
Yeah.
That was great.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
my dog started barking.
No, that's all right. That's what hound dog music is supposed to do. It's supposed, you've written something redneck when dogs start barking. And it's just it's a natural reaction to a really, really redneck song.
Yeah, no, totally. I like that though. I was like humming along the harmonies. I could.
Well, I need harmonies, so we'll talk about that afterwards. We still
Yeah,
gotta cut the harmonies. you're on it. I got you. You're gonna. I need you to do it. So so Mackenzie. Everybody heard that first. Mackenzie's gonna be the backing vocals on this on that track that we actually just cut over the winter.
Sweet.
But so you've done that a little bit too. You've helped tons of bands out with and in different genres too. Some more rock and roll, others a little bit more folky. But you get called upon a lot for your talent.
Yeah, I've kind of worked with a variety of people. I've been like just kind of, yeah, people will just ask me to either like sing on their album
Yeah.
or sub in, like did some stuff with the Dharma Bombs, I filled in with Holy Roller a couple times.
Trey had a solo album,
Yeah.
right? Didn't you do that? Didn't
Yeah,
you?
Trey Hall put out his solo album this past fall, so I was on one of those songs, and then he actually is doing a new band, like a solo band, like
Oh, really? It's him. Is it under his name, Trey Hall?
yeah. So it's Trey Bernard Hall and the Devil's Coattails.
Oh, okay.
So I am like officially part of that. We were actually supposed to debut in March at the Camel, and of course, like, all that
Yeah.
got
Yep.
shifted, and we were supposed to like record a thing, and like that got canceled. So that's kind of on hold, like for now.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows, like when we will actually be able to perform together? But yeah, so yeah, I'm kind of like I love playing with other musicians, and it kind of just gives me an opportunity to I don't know, just connect with the community more and
Mm-hmm.
work on other people's music. I really enjoy it just because I love singing and I just get tired of my own songs sometimes. So
Right.
I like working with people that I feel are really talented and just kind of like helping them and like lifting their songs up by adding harmonies or, you know,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a good quality to have. And I don't know if people truly understand the monotony of playing your own songs over and over again. I mean, we write the songs for the people, and we certainly want to share that. But at times, it gets difficult. It's easy to get caught up in the monotony of it and not give it all you have. Sometimes, I mean, you try, but it's easy to be distracted by, hey, I did this last week, do it again, and you might not know that there's new audience members in the crowd that never heard that song, and so I try to remind myself of that it's not always about me.
Yeah.
And it's about the experience. So, what have you been doing in COVID? I mean, I know we talked a little bit about it. It was, it hit you a little bit where it kind of derailed everything that you're doing. I don't know also if people truly understand the level of effort that it takes to run a band, book for your own band, write music, record music. It's pretty incredible when someone can do all of that consistently. It's not an easy thing. Especially and then work as well.
Yeah.
So how has this affected you and tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So it's been a challenge, of course, like everyone. It's, obviously all of our gigs have been canceled. We have not practiced just because like we don't want to be together and like risk that. One of our band members, Aaron, his wife just had a newborn baby. So just like we don't want to like risk it or anything. So we've been trying to like stay in communication, but just not a whole lot. And honestly, like to be totally honest, and I did tell you this earlier, but it's been kind of a relief in a way, having a break. I have been at points in my life where I've gigged 3-4 times a week and then band practice and then another band practice. I'm in multiple bands, I'm doing this, and it wears me out. And I've gotten to points where I'm like, oh my gosh, like sometimes I'm really energized by it. And then sometimes I'm like, I'm so tired of doing this. I just like a weekend.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. Being a local artist in a town where, people that went and saw you one week are probably not going to come see you the next week. And you're giving everything you have into this thing. You're putting the hours into practice, trying to get better, trying to be tight.
Yeah.
I totally get that feeling of relief in some ways. This time has forced us to take a step back. I think that's part of the terrible what's going on, but
Yeah.
That's part of, the slowing down of life. I think has been good. And we talked about this last week with Kai. Um, but I don't know that people really understand how much work goes into trying to be relevant in a music scene.
Yeah.
The hours you put into practicing,
Yeah.
and then and keeping a band together, because
Yeah.
Lord knows I've been through my share of members in my band.
Right.
Just trying to have something that feels and looks the same every time I play.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
For
so,
sure.
so you've been in the Richmond music scene for a while. Talk a little bit about that. Like how, what's that struggle look like, or what does that look like to someone that doesn't know intimately what that feels like or what that's like? Because I know what it's like. I'm in the same boat as you,
Yeah.
but for people listening, what is it like to put in effort and then sometimes not feel the return of what you put in?
Yeah, I mean, it can be very frustrating. I have had like overall a good experience with like playing music in Richmond. I mean, starting out, it was very intimidating when I was just playing, random gigs, random gigs in bars and whatnot, and like not really knowing a whole lot of people. And then once I started getting connected with by doing open mics and just meeting friends of friends and whatnot, really like opened me up to like all these new people and new bands, and just kind of being friends and supporting fellow musicians has been awesome. But of course, it can be super. I mean, I wouldn't say about the Richmond scene specifically, but
Yeah,
just about just in general being like a part of like the music industry, or like just the big music scene is
yeah,
um it's just frustrating, and it's hard to not like compare yourself to other
hmm,
musicians and other people who are doing like really well. There have definitely been like points in my life where I've seen someone maybe similar to me that's like reached these like high levels of success, and I'm like, well, like,
what am I doing wrong? Why?
right,
Yeah,
what am I
what?
doing
Yeah,
wrong? And
yeah,
it's easy to just kind of sit there and feel sorry for yourself, like, oh, no one's noticing me, like, oh, I poor me. But it's like you really do have to put a lot of work in, and I don't always feel like I'm putting in like 110%.
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
and I
yeah.
feel like, Woody, you put in so much work, effort. You're like, your work ethic as far as like music goes, and like writing, recording, practicing. You play some good shows, and like I so respect that, and I wish I had more of that.
Hmm.
Um, there have been times where I'm like, I just want to like hang out in my backyard. I don't feel
Yeah.
like doing it. I
I
don't want
want a
to do
beer.
it.
I want a fire pit. I
Yeah,
just want to. If
I'm
I
like,
if I feel like breaking out the guitar, I will,
yeah.
but don't have to.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it is a lot, like you said, like trying to book a tour. Like people are like, when are
Hmm.
you touring? I'm like, it is so freaking hard to book a tour unless you have some sort of tour management, like,
Hmm.
all these things, and you're on some label and you're doing it is very hard, especially with a full band. I
Yeah. Yeah.
have a
Well,
band
because
there.
you don't get paid. You don't get there's I mean you can't. It's hard to go on the road with even just for a long weekend,
Yeah,
and
you're
you're
paying for
keeping
it.
six people up, and then
Yeah.
are they making what $10 for the next show? And
Yeah, and I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
none of us, we're not like really like young enough where like, oh yeah, I'm like in it for the music and I'm cool with just like sleeping in the van and like,
right,
eating out of the garbage. Like we're not really
yeah,
at that point in our lives. Like we want to like have fun and have a good time and be comfortable. And like,
hmm,
I feel part of me like feels bad if I'm like, hey, let's like, go to New York and like we have to like spend all this money and all this
yeah,
stuff, and it's for what, like no one's gonna really show up unless we
yeah.
have it in really good with like a local band and we can get on a bill with. It's just it's
It's
very
hard. It's hard. It's incredibly hard. It's incredibly hard to quantify the number of hours that people don't see. And
yeah,
and I mean, we're choosing this though, right? I mean, there's the crazy part of us that wants to do this thing that keeps us going in some ways. And that is our fault. That's on us, right? Like we love this. It is rewarding.
yeah,
Like when we played this show right before all this happened with Lost Dog Street Band and a guy named Casper Allen, who's an incredible
yeah. I've
singer
known him
songwriter.
for the past several years, and so I
Yeah,
know what he's up to. And then I saw that you were playing with him. I was like, oh, Casper.
yeah. So I fell into that whole Jim's rabbit hole a long time ago,
Yeah.
starting with folks like Lost Dog Street Band and Benjamin Todd. Like I found Benjamin Todd first, and then Jim started, and then all the artists, Hill Country Devil, who's an also amazing singer songwriter. Uh, there's just so many great folks. Arlo McKinley, uh, and then Casper. And so I was like, yeah, wow, this is awesome. And we played a sold out show, and that was a height. That was a highlight.
Yeah.
But more times than not, you're not getting that mountaintop experience. A lot of times it's like, dude, I just drove an hour and a half to get to this show from Northern Virginia. We played a gig on a Thursday night. There were 30 people there. You know, people bought some merch. That's cool. It's great. But then I got to drive back home, and it's like, what the hell am I doing? Why am I doing this thing?
Right. And the way it's structured too, like, and I can't blame the venues really. Like they're trying to stay alive. They're trying to make music. It's just really hard. Like, you don't get like if you're on a band, you're on a bill with 3 or 4 bands, and the ticket door price or whatever is $5. You may get $100 as a full band by the end of the night. Like,
Yeah.
um, but it's hard, and it's like no one's fault really. It's just kind of how it is, and you just have to go in knowing that with that expectation.
Yeah, I'm optimistic that people are going to look back and reflect on the time before COVID and the time after COVID, and I think that people are going to want live music. They're going to crave it. They're gonna, they're gonna really need that experience, and that's my hope. I'm optimistic about that. But yeah, you're right. It's a combination of a bunch of different things and a lot of variables that are sometimes hard to explain. Trying to book a tour is almost impossible for a no-name local artist.
Yeah.
First, you have to get in the door of any place. It's hard enough to get in the door of a local venue. And like you said, it was intimidating when you start out. And the only way that I have been able to do any of this is by making relationships and building relationships, and learning and knowing people and knowing who is what and who does what. But it is incredibly hard. It's even harder to try to expand outside. So once you establish this local scene, then trying to get outside of that it's incredibly difficult. It's almost impossible unless you have some sort of mechanism backing you, which I think most people don't know or understand. But when you do have management, when you do have a touring agent, when you do have somebody that's doing a lot of that workload for you, unless you're giving up everything.
Right.
And a band that I can think of that's one of the most hardworking bands that I know is American Aquarium and BJ Barnum, and a little North Carolina band that busted their ass playing 300 shows a year. I mean, this band was insane. BJ is insane. And there was damage to his band's relationships. He's got different band members now, and I don't think he'd mind me saying that. But he's a hard-working son of a gun, and the only way he's been able to do it is he gave up everything and just got in a van and then lost relationships along the way.
Yeah.
And so it's incredibly hard. You have more against you than you have going for you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We haven't even touched the cusp of trying to record a record.
Right.
I mean, that's
and then you add the layer of like social media and all this BS. Like I hate it. Like all of the side of it. It's like you need to be posting content, blah blah blah. And there's some people that are really into that and really good at it, and I am not one of those people, and I just don't care.
Staying relevant is the most ridiculous and hardest thing, and it's almost insane to think about the level of effort you got to put into it.
Yeah.
And the comical thing, if you take a step back and look at it, is people that have a backing that they might be tweeting on their own, or they might be posting Instagram, but they have people that are helping them do this. How do you keep up with that?
Right.
It's almost impossible. But I want you to play some more music. So we've been talking for a little bit. Take a swig of your beer. I don't want to cut your beer off. And
do I play one more song or 2 more songs? Because
I think whatever you want. This is you can do. And notice at the bottom, people that are listening in, we have a virtual tip jar, and if you have Venmo, Mackenzie is she's got her Venmo name down there. Please send her something. That would be very, very nice. We've got a request for cigarettes and TV dinners. By the way, I don't know if you can do that one.
Yeah, thanks guys. Thanks everyone for tuning in, listening, sending Venmos. Like, it's awesome. Totally not necessary, but if you feel the need and you're enjoying what's going on, I would totally appreciate it.
And I would back that statement, and I would say Mackenzie deserves every bit of it. You know, part of this is just, I mean, I wanted to talk to my friends, and I want people to realize the effort that we put into this thing, and that sometimes it is discouraging, and you know, a lot goes into putting out a single, which you did last year. A lot. I mean, I put out 2 singles, which I felt like it took forever just to get to that final product. It's incredibly hard. And I think we need to value more the effort that goes into folks like you who put your heart and soul into something and create this really beautiful song and product. And you're not on mainstream radio, but you probably deserve to be, or at least be heard by someone. And so that's this opportunity. That's what Picking in a Piner is all about. Picking with a Piner. We're not picking in a Piner. I hope nobody's picking in any of my Piners at home. Put your hands down and stay away from all the Piners. Don't be picking in a Piner. But that's what Picking with a Piner is all about. Is reminiscent of the days of old, of sitting on a porch and sharing songs and telling stories and talking about where you come from. So, Mackenzie, floor is yours. Play us another tune.
Yeah. Okay. I'd like to do 2 more if we have time.
You have time to do 3 more if you want. I won't do one, so you can do 3 more, please. Yes.
So yeah, I'll do cigarettes and TV dinners. This has, I guess, a bit of a story behind it, but if you want, we can talk about it afterwards. But yeah, this is the song.
Yeah, I want to hear the story about this song after. So let's do the song and tell us a little bit about it afterwards, and then we have time.
Cool.
All right.
Yeah, so my band, Pistol Sister, put this out. It's on Bandcamp and Spotify if you guys want to check it out. My friends are telling me my face is looking thinner, sustaining on cigarettes and TV dinners, and I'm walking every evening cause I got nowhere to be. Catch the face of every man who glances back at me, and there's a part of me that wonders where he is. And I recall the sound of all the little things I miss, but I shake it from my mind, because I really done him wrong this time, and I got no home like a rolling stone, and I know I could go back to him, but I won't. No, I won't. A stranger told me he had seen me around before, and would I honor him by talking just a little more? So he bought us a couple shots of liquor from the rail. I'm old enough to know what these transactions can entail. He said, hey honey, wanna come on home with me? No, nothing funny, just a little bit of company, and I don't really care. Because I left my common sense somewhere. And I got no like a ray, a rolling stone. And I know I could go back to him, but I won't. No, I won't. My friends are telling me that I should get away to Birmingham or Baltimore, the mountains through the day. This town keeps on taunting me about the things I've done. I don't know why I stick around when I ain't got no one, and I ain't got no home. Like a rain, a rolling stone. I know I could go back to him, but I won't. No, I won't. Oh, oh.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. We get you got some feedback there. Fantastic would be a good description of that song, I think. Um, well, tell us. I called you out on this one. I think a while back. I the I know Rake or Rolling Stone. I
Mhm.
that lyric in particular I called out as knowing that that was a Towns Van Zandt
That
reference.
was, I think, how we first started like communicating. Because
It is. I heard that song online and I was like, "You're writing a song about," and it's got a Towns Van Zandt reference in it. I was like, "What is this lady up to?" Um, but yeah. So tell us a little bit about that one. What inspired that,
yeah.
and actually, I'm going to ask you a couple questions about your writing process. It's probably a good segment for that. But go ahead and tell us a little bit about that song and what inspired it, and then I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay, so a few years ago, this would be fall of 2017. I was going through the first stages of like a divorce. So I had been married before, for those of you who don't know, and we had just gotten separated, and it was very turbulent times for me. I like moved in with my brother and was living with him in like his spare office room in his like fan apartment. It was essentially just like the saddest I've ever been in my life. It
Mm-hmm.
feeling so like just unsettled, and like I was living out of a suitcase. It was just like I felt like I didn't have anywhere that I was living. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
staying, with my brother and doing that, but like my ex had kind of like taken over our house. Like he was there. I felt like I had nowhere to go, and I was just practicing lots of just unhealthy habits. I was just like drinking, smoking, eating a bunch of crap, just
Mm.
like walking around until like the early morning hours, like around
Yeah.
the fan, and just like being stupid. And it was really tough. And
Or grieving. We could. Some people call that grieving, and that's
yeah,
okay too.
oh
You can do it. It's perfectly okay.
yeah, it was.
And I don't know if Benji's still listening, but Benji oftentimes walks around in his underwear, eating junk and drinking cheap beer. And I think he would validate that for sure.
Yeah,
We'll see if he chimes in, but sometimes that's you got to do what you got to do. You know, I mean, sometimes it's hard to put into words how you feel at a particular moment in that devastation. Your world just shifted and changed completely, and you're hurt. And sometimes it's okay to just uh, I'm not going to say shut down, but pick up certain habits that are unnormal to you because you're grieving.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay sometimes.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it was definitely like a phase. It was my cigarettes and TV dinners like phase of life, and everything was so horrible, and I felt like we had been married for like 2 months, like
Yeah.
before. It was like that kind of situation, and
Yeah.
there was literally no good that came out
Yeah.
of this whole disaster. It was such a disaster, and so my response was just like, I have to write a song. Like
Yeah.
there's like one thing that I can get out of this. Like I have to write
Hmm.
a song. Like,
Yeah.
and that's
Sh-
really like, I don't know. It fueled that song. And looking back, I'm glad it did.
You just explained the entire history of country music,
Yeah,
in one description of an event in your life.
yeah,
I think a lot of folks come out of situations like, this got to be a song. This is a
yeah,
song.
yeah. Like this
Yeah.
sucks. Like if I can have just
Yeah.
like one good thing come out of
This
this.
suffering has got to be for something, and
Yeah,
I'm going to turn it into something good. I'm going to make it a song.
yeah,
I
exactly.
100% understand and feel that. But so keep going. I didn't want to interrupt you, but I agree with you, and I think that
Yeah, no,
it's
that's all I have to say about that. I mean, that,
well but then you slip towns in there.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
guess like Rake is one of my favorite Town songs. He's just
Yep.
kind of like this, like and I didn't know what a rake was. I was like, what the hell
Yeah.
is that? And so I,
Yeah.
I looked up the term and I was like, oh, he's kind of like, a rambling, gambling man, like kind of
Yeah.
free spirit,
Yeah.
thing. Maybe going around making some maybe unwise choices with the ladies, is
Hmm.
what a rake is. But not that I was like doing that, but kind of I could just kind of relate to that idea,
Yeah.
and the desire to kind of be that, if that makes
Hmm.
sense.
Yeah.
In that,
Well, I think Towns had a perfect way of capturing suffering and to words and melodies and making sense of the suffering. And I think that song "Rake" is definitely one where he does that.
yeah,
What I mean,
yeah,
and just sort of living that rambling lifestyle.
yeah,
Um, well,
yeah.
tell us a little bit about. So I thank you for sharing that. That's a lot of detail that people don't understand. That
Mhm.
sometimes these songs are very personal,
Oh yeah,
but sometimes they're not. Sometimes it's something that you saw somebody else go through.
right.
And so tell us a little bit about your writing process, and then I want you to play another song, and then I'm going to play a song, and then you're going to play another song.
I just want to play one more song.
I want you to play two more songs.
Okay, all right, fine. Okay, so
You can only play one more song. If you just want to play just one more song, I'll play another song, and then you can play a song.
yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
So my writing process, I essentially, I mean, we kind of already touched on this, but essentially, I find it so hard to write when things are good. I
Hmm.
I like cannot do it. I have
Yeah.
tried to write like happy, positive songs, cannot do it. It comes out sounding like a Target commercial. I
Yeah.
just can't. And it's just like, it's kind of unfortunate too, because, and I'm like having serious trouble right now. I haven't been able to
Yeah.
do anything in a while. And because my life is good and I'm very happy, my relationship is very good right now. And I
Yeah.
just feel like, even though there's like a lot of madness and chaos happening in the world and that sucks, my
Hmm.
personal life, I feel like very
Feels
happy.
in a good place. Is in a good place.
Yeah. And I know it's not going to last forever. Like life is full of ups and downs. But I really write in the face of like just like hard times. That is
Yeah.
what drives me, and that has
Yeah.
always been what's like fueled me. Like even since I was a teenager, and the reason I started writing in general, like
Hmm.
sitting down to like write my journal, was to like bitch about how no one like had a crush on me and how
Yeah.
life is so horrible. Like
Yeah.
that is how it started, and that's kind of what it is. It's like very cathartic for me to write about
Hmm.
things that are unpleasant. So when things are good, it's very hard. So as far as writing process goes, it's just like I like to just kind of like get it all down, write down a bunch of thoughts, and if anything kind of sticks out to me, like any like lines
Hmm.
or phrases, see if I can like set it to music. Or
Yeah.
sometimes, I mean, I don't know, I don't really have like a super set in stone process. Sometimes I'll come up with like a
Yeah.
tune, just like playing around and be like, let me try to figure out like what can fit
Hmm.
this lyrically. So I've done it all sorts of ways.
I think so. I think, for me, and then talking to a lot of other people who are writers recently in this doing this live stream, um, I get the sense that some people are, uh, we're all just trying to capture that melody. We're all just trying to capture that phrase. Some people carve out time to try to do it because they have a busy schedule, and
Mhm.
some people just let it come when it comes and they feel inspired. Which I think it's good to be patient. Sometimes I used to, when I was a younger writer, I would try to force things and get real frustrated real easy because what I was trying to say was not being captured the right way, and I wanted it to come out at that moment, and I just wasn't patient about the process. And sometimes you're inspired, and sometimes you're not. And they often say that some of the most happy people write some of the most depressing songs,
Mhm.
and the same is true for people that are really depressed. Sometimes write the most happy songs.
Yeah, the
Um,
goofiest or the funniest. Like I think talent,
yeah,
again, to bring it back to him, he was obviously like in a dark place for a lot of his life, but
yeah,
he was able to mix like humor and misery
yeah.
really well, and kind of
I,
like finding a clever, like almost funny way to,
putting it, and I think
yeah,
Blaze was kind of like that too, and they were both
yeah,
very, very closely connected, and
yeah, definitely.
highly intelligent writers, but were brilliant in the way that they were able to capture pain and suffering, and do it in such a way that kind of brought a smile to your face or made you really sad at the same time. Um, I'm amazed at John Prine. He's the most diverse writer
Oh
that
yeah,
I know. That in I mean, so this is the way I feel about Blaze and Towns. Either it was like a happy song or it was a sad song, but it wasn't really both.
yeah,
With Prine could take a sad song and throw in a lyric that I feel like was just so diverse and like could make you laugh all in the same moment.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. He's just clever.
uh,
Like, there's just such a clever.
yeah. Oh my God, so brilliant. So absolutely. But all of them were absolutely. I've had a hard time keeping up with my pick tonight. But uh, but uh, but I mean, I'm fascinated at the writing process. I love talking to people who do it. I love to try to figure out what are they doing, what am I doing. I listen to a lot of podcasts about songwriting. I read a lot of books about songwriting. There's structure. There's a lot of structure to music, which a lot of people don't get. I was having this conversation recently about there's a math to music,
Right.
but it's the piece of music that is, uh, I guess, romanticized or the other side of the brain, not the mathematical part,
Yeah.
that presents the feeling. And it's the combination of the two that makes something really good, right? It's the
Right.
structure, it's the combination of the chords and the melody, which is very mathematical.
Hmm.
But then you have this element of it that is very, very rooted in just pure emotion,
Yeah.
and it's a hard thing to be able to balance both and get it right. And I have not figured it out yet. I
Yeah.
think doing it helps though.
Yeah.
The more you do something, it's just a fact.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like a thousand basketball free throws. The more that I think there was a book a while back, and I'm gonna botch it up, but there was a book a while back about doing something 1,000 times, and you're gonna eventually get good at it. And I think songwriting is similar. It's a practice.
Yeah.
It's an art form that you have to kind of do. It's not just gonna be something where you just randomly sit down one day and boom, you wrote the
Yeah.
perfect
Yeah.
song.
Oh, yeah.
And your experience in creative writing probably has a lot of impact on you as well, um, in the sense of being a writer. And you mentioned that earlier, being hard on yourself because you studied creative writing.
Yeah.
um, I'm hard on myself because sometimes I just write shit and I'm like, you're an idiot. Like, you go back to the drawing board. That makes absolutely no sense. You're
Yeah.
trying to be funny and you're just writing cliche shit at this point.
Yeah.
And
I hear you.
but it's hard to explain. It's hard to tell people what it's like to be a writer, and that's why these conversations are fun. So, do you carve out time, or is it again just when you feel inspired? I mean, I would think being like in the creative writing scene and like doing it for school, you probably built in some practice. What are there any practices that you apply?
With that, back then, yeah, definitely. Lately, no, not really. It's something I know I need to work on, and something I know you and I have talked about a bit in the
Mm-hmm.
past. Um, I know I need to, and I know I need to because
Yeah.
I want to write more. I want to have more material, but I just haven't, and it's tough, like working. Like I'm still working from home, and that
Yeah.
takes up a lot of my time. And then it's like get off work, like life just gets in the way, and
Yeah, it does.
it's
It
such a low
does.
priority right now, just because of like I'm not performing anywhere like anytime soon. I don't know what that's gonna look like, and I don't know. I've just kind of like lost a lot of my inspiration and my drive
Yeah.
to do it. So I don't know. Hopefully, I'm trying to write more with my now husband,
Mm-hmm.
my band. And the next song we're gonna do is something we've kind of written together, but I actually have been enjoying that more because I feel like it's just like two minds are better than one, and you
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
like
It's fun. It's fun to collaborate. It's hard to collaborate. It's hard to break out of the the stubbornness. I know I'm a stubborn person, so it's hard
yeah,
to break out of that and be open to someone else. That's really amazing though. That's cool
yeah,
that y'all are doing that.
yeah. It is.
I want to encourage you though. They actually had to lock John Prine in a hotel room in Nashville to get him to finish his last record, which was amazing. The Tree of Forgiveness. I mean, I can't imagine being at his age and creating something
Yeah,
just as beautiful as the first thing that he created.
yeah,
But just know that John was the kind of guy that had every excuse to write.
yeah,
Uh, Everything else was more important than writing. But
yeah,
he wrote some really beautiful music. So
yeah,
don't let that get you down in any way.
yeah.
Um, but uh, but I'm gonna do one more song. This is a song I finished recently, and I hope I don't screw it up too much. But it's new, and then I'm gonna have you and Michael do the final song, and we'll call it a night. And I really really appreciate you being a part of this tonight. And please tip Mackenzie if you feel led. There, it's scrolling across the bottom of the screen there. Um, this song I wrote a while back, and I didn't finish it, and kind of came back to it during the downtime. So this will be my last one of the night. This one's called "Someone Like You." Well, you walked in and lit up the room. A black leather jacket and cowboy boots. And I don't know what I'm supposed to do, 'cause I ain't never met someone like you. Someone that came along and wrecked my world in two. Someone to make me think there ain't nothing I can't do. You know it's true. And I ain't never met someone like you. No, I ain't never met someone like you. You're one part fire and gasoline. You got your mama's laugh and your daddy's mean. And them old boys never had a clue, 'cause I ain't never met someone like you. No, I ain't never met someone like you. Someone that came along and wrecked my world in two. Someone that makes me feel like there ain't nothing I can't do. You know it's true. And I ain't never met someone like you. No, I ain't never met someone like you. But you walked in and lit up the room. A black leather jacket and cowboy boots. I got the nerve to talk to you, and I ain't never met someone like you. No, I ain't never met someone like you. Someone that came along and wrecked my world in two. Makes me think there ain't nothing I can't do. You know it's true. And I ain't never met someone like you. No, I ain't never met someone like you.
Nice. Well done.
Thank you. Michael!
Hey,
Hey, man, congratulations.
hey, thanks, buddy.
That is awesome, and very proud of both of you too. So thank you for being a part of this tonight and jumping in here for this this song here. So that was a new song that I had started the melody a while back, played around with different chords, beat it up a little bit, didn't really know where to go with it. I had that some, you know, that the hook part, which was, you know, I ain't never met someone like you, and it just kept playing in my head. Generally, I know when something is going in the right direction, as if I, like a psychotic person, get it stuck in repetition in my head.
Yeah.
And usually I know it's good at that point. And then Lainey hates me because I sing it all the time, and then it gets stuck in her head, and it's just a chain reaction. But anyway, that was a new one that I'm working or worked, and I think it's pretty much done at this point.
Yeah.
But so
Sometimes, or go ahead.
no, go.
I was gonna say sometimes, like it can be tough, at least like songwriting wise, when so many times, like more often than not, I'll like come up with like a hook or something like that,
Mhm.
and I cannot for the life of me like figure out the rest of it.
Yeah.
And it can be super. It's just so frustrating, but that's why like collaboration I feel like is really helpful because
Yeah, writing. So having the story or whatever it is grow. You know, if you think of it in boxes, like the first box gives a little information, the next one gives a little bit more, and then whatever the hook is or the chorus, it's supposed to kind of bring it all together and make it make sense. Um, but it's incredibly hard if you start something,
yeah,
walk away from it from from a year ago, and then try to come back and make it make sense. But the downtime, I knew that I liked the hook of the song.
yeah,
I've pretty much forced myself to finish it,
yeah,
even though I wanted it to say more
yeah.
lyrically. I feel like it kind of says just enough. Maybe I don't know. I'm still playing with it, so I'll let people be the judge of that one.
Yeah. Sometimes less is more.
Yep, yep.
Cool.
Well, I think that Reed, she's biased though. She said this is one of my favorite ones. Reed, thank you. I appreciate you, and thanks for listening. Everybody out there, thanks for listening. This has been Picking with a Piner, with the incredibly talented Mackenzie Roark, and Michael, her husband, is going to be joining her. He's also a great member of her band. And so I hope with all of this collaboration that you're talking about, that there's going to be tons of really good new music coming out. That's the hope. So you've set a high standard with cigarettes and TV dinners.
Yeah.
But I know that there's more music there, and I don't want you to get down, and I want you to keep pushing. And I think there's plenty of people out there listening right now that feel the exact same way I do. And you have such a great talent, and it is a gift. And just keep plugging away at it. But I want to end tonight, unless you have anything else to say. I want to end tonight with just this last song, and we're going to call it a night. And I really appreciate you, Mackenzie, being on here. Everyone's been excited about having you on here. I've had actual messages from people saying, "Hey, that girl that sang at the River City Review, is she going to be on this thing?" And I said, "Yes," and she has a name. So please, well, Cody's mom just said hello. She said, "Love Pistol Sister sound."
Oh.
So please give us a song. Is this a new song, or is this something that's been in play, or what?
This is newer. We haven't played it really out yet. Well, the two of us have, but not as a full band yet. But yeah, so.
Well, y'all are very, very lucky. Who's out there listening right now? We have 16 people listening, but more people will listen to this after it goes live and we post it. So you're very, very lucky to get the exclusive Mackenzie Roark Pistol Sister new song. So please tune in and listen. And Mackenzie, thanks again. I couldn't, be happier. We had a great conversation. Yeah. It was fun, and I think the time went by extremely fast.
Yeah, it did. Thank you, Woody.
Yeah, no, appreciate you.
And for chatting. It's been awesome, and thanks everyone for listening. This song is called "The Highway," and yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Highway, living freeway, staring out some dust on the wake of a ghost town. Searching for soul and the right things, timber on the ground of a flatbed to go round. Just wondering how the hell we got here in the first place. My old lover swore he'd be waiting for me, but it's been a few daydreams since I last saw his face. I'm too far gone. I've been chasing this shadow for too long. A waste of sorrow, waste of time. Heaven knows what I've wasted it on. I've been out and jaded, busted and faded, and I'm too damn old to be aiming so high. And many before me have sought out the same glory, but the highway's little white crosses, they don't lie. And I'm too far gone. I've been chasing this shadow for too long. We Heaven knows what I've wasted it on.
Woo! Sounds awesome.
Thank
That's
you.
wonderful.
Thank
That's incredible, and really thank y'all for sharing that one.
Yeah.
Um, can't wait to hear what else comes out of this quarantine. Keep working at it, and don't let her slack, Michael.
There's not a day that goes by I see slack.
Well, hey, congrats to both of y'all, and thanks for being on, Mackenzie. This has been a cool episode. We got to talk some of the trials and tribulations of being a local act and trying to write and find time and all the chaos. And thanks for being on here and giving us a lot of your story. I think it's cool for people to hear that, and I think they'll appreciate that as well. And I think you've got a great thing. Keep pushing at it, and I'm gonna keep advocating for you as well and your band. So I'm a huge fan. So, but anyway, thanks for being on, and we really appreciate it. This has been episode 6 of Pickin with a Piner with Mackenzie Roark, and thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Everybody have a good night.
All right.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.